Hang on, people. All right, so somebody sent me this video and asked me, could I arrest somebody for sleeping in a vehicle? And evidently they said, Steve said, you can't. Okay, so if you watch this video on Steve Lehtos, and I'm not cracking on Steve, don't be trying to start shit. I like Steve. So he gives a case about Ohio, and he says it's only in Ohio. And he said a judge ruled that if a guy was in a car, unless you could prove the car was moving, he didn't get charged with a second DUI. I'm telling you, in California, and the ATF uses this with gun parts, it's called constructive possession. And if you have constructive possession or operational possession of a car, in most states, the cops will arrest you. Now, can you win in court? Yeah, maybe, if and buts and coconuts, but it's your risk. I mean, if you're looking, you should know me by now if you've been watching my videos that if you expect me to give you a straight answer, it's not going to happen. It's always if and buts and coconuts with the law. And even if the law, even though it's clear as mud, one court will say one thing, the Supreme Court will say another, and then the U.S. Supreme Court will say another. So anybody that tells you they know the law and they give you advice that you're safe, lawyers can kind of advise you that, hey, this is what the law is, but they will usually put in, it depends on the judge, it depends on the law, it depends on how they interpret it, it depends on this word and that word and this interpretation and that interpretation and this definition and that definition. So, look, I'm telling you, if you're in a car with the keys and you're under the influence, most cops are going to say you have the ability, the opportunity to drive. You have constructive possession of the keys. If I leave, it's not reasonable that I should let you drive off, get in a pursuit, and possibly kill someone before I can stop you from drunk driving. Now, I'm not a big drunk driving maniac, and to be honest, I think Mothers Against Drunk Driving went freaking crazy, and now it's just become a big money making for courts, government, lawyers, and all the other crap. I mean, when I was working, we'd give guys rides home if they were drunk, or we'd tell them to walk and park the car. It wasn't this freaking let's ruin someone's life and try to send them for prison. But whatever. I'm just telling you, you want my opinion on this? I don't even know if I disagree with Steve on this. He, I thought, made it clear that Ohio made this, and if you had a prior, and in this case had a lot of little, technical things in it, but I'm telling you, from a cop perspective, if you're in a car with the keys and you're under the influence, most cops in most states are going to arrest you. And I think most DAs will charge it unless the law specifically states in order to prove drunk driving, the car has to move or the officer has to witness the car moving, which definitely isn't the case in California. There's actually an exception, and I don't even know if it's California. I think it's everywhere. That drunk driving is one of those exceptions for a misdemeanor that you do not have to see the crime. In California, if I don't see the misdemeanor as a cop, I can't do anything. I have to witness a misdemeanor crime in order to take action. Otherwise, I need a citizen to make a citizen's arrest who saw it. And the exception to that, I think DV is on there, domestic violence, and DUI, drunk driving. If you are in an accident and you leave the scene, I can say that I believe you were at the accident and I can investigate it, even though it's a misdemeanor not committed in my presence. I can still investigate it and go arrest you. That's one of the few misdemeanors not committed in your presence that you can arrest in California. Again, that's California. I looked up Texas law here, and Texas says the Texas courts typically interpret operating quite broadly when it comes to DWI charges. When evaluating the evidence, whether sufficient evidence exists to support a conviction, they often decide on the word operate in relation to the vehicle occurs when, here's that term again, totality of circumstances demonstrate that the defendant took action to affect the functioning of his vehicle that would enable the vehicle use. So Texas goes a little bit further by saying you have to have some sort of operation. Within this definition, there are several situations where the motorist could be convicted of operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated without ever moving it. For example, sleeping with your keys in ignition is one of the ways that lead a police officer, judge, and jury to believe that you were intending, which I think is bullshit. You can't even testify to what somebody's thinking or intending. It's called hearsay. Or it's called an opinion. If you're an expert witness, you can, but that's different. If you were intending to drive while under the influence, while they may not have been your intent, law enforcement may decide to arrest you regardless. Okay? And then what was the other one I looked up? So I don't know what state this was in. Was this California? Penal Code Section 21A. Look this up, and I don't know what state I put it. Can you get a DWI where parked? Mercer versus Department of Motor Vehicles. Department of Motor Vehicles, I think. Anyway, they go into some different things on this one. And then if you look here, operate a motor vehicle. Person operates a motor vehicle not only while doing all the well-known things drivers do to travel on the street, etc. The law says a person operates a motor vehicle when he or she is in the vehicle and intentionally manipulates some mechanical or electrical part of the vehicle. Is unlocking doors an electrical part? Maybe. If and buts and coconuts. Like the gear shift or the ignition, which alone and in sequence will set the car in motion. An intoxicated defendant found asleep in a vehicle parked on a public roadway with the key ignition may be found to have operated the vehicle. So, as I said, this is all like all law, if and buts and coconuts. When people try to bait me into, hey man, Lehtos said this. Is he full of shit, or do you agree, or what do you think? Now look, I definitely think that me and Steve see things differently on the law, on how to interpret it. He looks at it from a lawyer, I look at it from a cop, and also from seeing and defending it in court and with lawyers, and having lawyers question me, and having lawyers argue over what I said and what I did and what I meant and what's admissible and what's not admissible, and then the judge gets to rule. So I see it from a different perspective than most lawyers. Most lawyers have never testified. They don't know what it's like to have two lawyers beating you up and trying to make you and hang on your word and make you look like a liar and you're under oath. Most lawyers never testify. I said most. I don't know if Steve has or not. I'm not saying anything about it. So that's my opinion on sleeping. Can you get arrested for sleeping in your vehicle while you're drunk? It depends. If and buts coconuts. Well, in that there.